This summer, CMBC had the privilege to send out 2 youth missions teams. In June, we went to Philadelphia to serve with City Service Mission, and in July, we served with Rich and Holly Vallette in the Dominican Republic.
We went down to Philadelphia this summer, working with City Service Mission, also known as CSM. They've changed their names a little bit. But what they do is they bring groups in the summer, and they partner with these different service organizations and get people to do work. And just to get the students, myself, and our leaders to volunteer in those, it broadened our thinking of what could I do to help my world out, whether it's, in my own world here in Lancaster County, in Philadelphia, or that could translate to the mission field across the world too.
Ray of Hope is a street cleaning project, and they go around and they clean streets, and they have everything in a van, and they just go around and they get groups of people to try to help clean up trash that's along the street. So we cleaned up one of the streets. It's really cool to pick up things that people had trashed.
Theater 7000 is a ministry where they take youth from around the city where they're located, and they put on theater productions of books of the Bible, stories in the Bible, and they bring the Bible to life. And it's kind of like Sight and Sound, but it's in a dome, and they project images onto a screen, and it's so cool.
Mainly what we did at Theater 7000, some of us split off and started cleaning, just organizing the place. A group of us guys went over and we actually tore down one of their smaller domes that they have. I think it was a 25-footer. So we got to climb around. It was like an adult jungle gym, pretty much.
Furniture Bank, we were building furniture for the bank, and they give out furniture to people who don't have it, just small amounts for their apartments. I built a table with Damien and TJ.
And when God gave me strength, I was like when I tried carrying something, like a heavy object, I was thinking in my head hey, I have some strength, so thank you, God. I was thinking that in my head.
Wayne Hall is a home for single moms that are facing homelessness. They just need a place to stay and get on their feet. God taught me to work hard in everything that I do, no matter how big or how small. You just give it your all, and you do it right the first time, and if you mess up, it's okay. You can go back and fix it.
Hands of Hope is it's where we meet homeless people on their level. Instead of having them come over to a shelter to get food or setting up a building, we go out and we gave them meals, and we sat down and just talked to them. I'm never really good at talking to people, but there was a lot easier than I had expected it to be. Especially strangers, people who I don't know. I'm never good at talking to them, but it was a lot easier than I had expected.
I was challenged by actually getting out of my shell and having to talk to people I don't normally talk to, having to hang out with people I'm not quite used to. And it was all easier than I thought because I felt God was there and He was helping me through.
When we did the homeless, Hands of Hope with the homeless and handing out meals and talking with them, I really felt like I was making an impact on the community for God, and just that those people, you just see them, but it's easier to interact with them than you think once you break the barrier and go up to them.
He taught me that when I'm serving, it doesn't necessarily have to be big and up front. It can be little behind the scenes stuff to make people happy.
God surprised me by teaching me that I could find the joy in the smallest things, like the smallest chat with some homeless man, or by having the smallest job and knowing that it was going to help somebody else in the end.
Now, if there's someone I really don't know, school, church, I'm going to try to take the time to get to know them. If they look like they're having a hard time, I'll try to help them.
During our trip to the Dominican Republic, we partnered with Rich and Holly Villette, and we were serving at a local church that they minister with, and we were building a cement wall. We also did a lot of painting and organizing, and then in the afternoons it was very prayer focused and prayer oriented around different ministries that they also partner with and the people that they minister to.
Some of us did painting jobs, some of us worked outside building the cement wall, and some of us just organized and got the classrooms ready for when the school teachers came in.
Richie was asking if someone could plant flowers, and I was like, oh, that's like right up my alley, and it just worked out really nice. He was so thankful that someone was experienced in that area and that I could just bring, joy and like just people seeing the flowers and the beauty of it.
One of the service projects we did for the church throughout the entire week was we built a wall to put up a fence around their new project that they were doing for their add-on to the church, and that's just like a main focus that I have, and to do that on the trip throughout the week was pretty cool, and I feel that God used that as a service on the mission trip to reach the Dominican people.
We had to wake up at like 6:30 every morning. We didn't go to bed till like midnight every night, so I was really tired the whole week. But God gave me the strength every day to do what needed to be done.
Jefferson is a boy who's 11. He was, Jason told me he was picking coconuts from a coconut tree and he fell. And as he fell, he was hit by a car and the car just took off. It was like a hit and run. And he was left there just lying on the side of the street with 2 broken legs, couldn't move.
He lives in a small house and it's just, there's not that much space. It's probably 2 rooms, if not even. It has like a kitchen and then like a huge mattress for him and his family to sleep on.
So when we went to see Jepson, I wasn't really sure what to expect. I was nervous about the whole thing, so I wasn't sure what to expect in his living conditions. But we went there and we watched him as he finished his puzzle. We played some games with him and he was just so happy and he was making the most out of his situation. He wasn't letting it get him down or anything like that.
God really taught me that I have to be really grateful for everything that I have, because the Dominicans, even though they have so little, they were so very grateful for what they had, and they welcomed you into their homes.
With the language barrier, I had an expectation of it being really hard to communicate with people, but while I was there, I realized that there's other ways to communicate with people by just showing them love.
On Wednesday night when we went and had dinner with the host family, or not the host family, but the people from La Chaquita, and it was just really cool to see how they like their home life and what it's like, and just being able to laugh with them, like even though we didn't talk the same language, like we played a game with them, and it was just like really fun to see how like they were like serving us and like they let us sit at their table while they sat like on their couch and ate dinner, so that was really cool.
I just love baseball and I loved playing baseball with the kids, and I didn't think that I was going to be able to connect with very many people down there, but baseball was a good connection between me and the kids.
One of my favorite moments was when we would go to the Dominicans' churches to watch them worship, and they would worship really well. They would be really into it. They'd be really fully worshiping even though they had very little or they were off key or something like that.
When we were singing with the youth group, I knew none of the words on the board. I couldn't even see the board. I wasn't wearing contacts or anything. I just knew there were words up there. And I heard everyone singing, and again, I didn't know those words, but I knew that we were worshiping. They were worshiping God in their language, and I can worship God as well. And I found that really amazing how big God is.
I loved hearing their hearts for God. Even though they weren't in tune, they didn't sound very good. I loved it still because of how much they loved the Lord.
Honestly, it was the focus on God and not necessarily on how we sound or the words that we're saying. It's really just truly a heart praise of God.
Throughout our preparation for the trip, we really had a focus on prayer. That was anywhere from going through a prayer book together, praying at each meeting, being intentional about praying with each other and what that means to pray as a community. I think it was stretching for some students also to pray
in front of others, but I think that encouragement as a team and seeing that encouragement to pray as a group was good for the students, good for the leaders, all of us.
The whole aspect of praying out loud kind of freaked me out, but I just realized that it's not important what people thought of the words that I was saying or like what it mattered to them. It's just what God wanted me to say and what He wanted to hear. We prayed for everything that happened, everything that was going on, and we tried very hard to just pray as much as possible, and I feel like it was a good thing to be able to just do that at the end of the day.
Richie is involved with soccer, with baseball, and he's also becoming involved with basketball throughout the Dominican, and it was really cool to see him working through sports, which is something that isn't the first thing that comes to our mind whenever we think of ministering to people, but it's a common passion that people have, and it's able to build those relationships from that passion.
The significance of visiting those stadiums was that, like I said, they are the national teams of Santiago, so they represent Santiago and the entire country of the Dominican Republic on a global scale. And for Rich to be able to go in and talk to them and just get to know them and give these men something that they don't normally get.
It's really cool to see Richie using these passions that he has to build the relationships with the athletes, and it helps me or helps us to understand that it's something we can do here. We can invest in their lives, build a relationship with them, and then God will give us the opportunities and the chances to talk about Him.
This trip taught me how to look at the small things and to really appreciate everything, every day and every moment, and not be so caught up in myself.
A lot of them are very poor and they don't need very much to live at all. I don't know how those who aren't saved live like that, but then those who are saved, they depend on God for provisions and for their joy.
A lot of the people in the Dominican didn't have a lot of things, and they were very content. They found joy in Christ, and they didn't have to have, all the things that us Americans have.
No matter where you are, it's not, you don't have to be a missionary to be intentional. It's really waking up each day and with that focus of how can I glorify God today? Lord, can you show me people that I can minister to today that I won't just be going through the motions?
Thank you for all the ways you supported us in sending us to both Philadelphia and the Dominican Republic. Our students were able to be used by God to do His work as well as be impacted by these experiences. Please continue to pray for our students as they seek to live out their faith through their works.